Just, two announcements before class. Today is the disappearance day of Narahari Sarakat Thakur. And he is the one who's mentioned in the Gora Arti song.
So no Bhagavatam.
No, we're going to have, no, there's not that much information about it. But he was associated with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he wrote just a few words. And then he wrote many, we'll have Bhagavatam. And then he wrote many Vaishnava poems that have been given to us by Narahari Chakravarti Thakur. So, I mean, he wrote many, many songs about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he's the spiritual master of Lochan Das Thakur. And his disappearance day is today. Also, I'd ask you to pray for a devotee. I just got information this morning. I think you all know Vedasar Guru.
Yeah.
He had a car accident. And, well, it's more than that. And they did a scan on him and they discovered something in his brain.
Oh, you know about that.
So does everybody know about this already?
No, I knew about it. It was actually supposed to be quiet.
Mother-in-law.
Oh, supposed to be quiet, but I just want everyone to pray for him.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, and everybody should pray for him, and he's on his way. He's going to be on his way to India because he doesn't have medical insurance in the United States. But anyway, and they have it taken care of. So we just pray. It's most likely benign, so that means it's not. So we just pray for the devotees. This material world is a pretty nasty place. And time to take shelter of Krishna before it's too late. What is King Kulashekara prays? What? Let me die now, for my mind, the swan of my mind is fixed, and not while I'm choked up with copper, but not choked up with mucus and everything like that. So, anyway, as long as we can serve Lord Chaitanya, we should stay in these bodies. But if we can't serve, what's the use of this body? Then we should just throw it away. And you just get another one. Heavy place, this material world. Okay. Jaya Rama Madhava Kunda Vila Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paramacharya also tell us that Srimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada, ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, Nandakoti Vaishnav Vrindika Namacharya Srila Vedas Thakur. Friends, say, oh, Shri Krishna, Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktavinda, Shri Radha Krishna, Gaur Sign, Kundara Kunda, Giri Govardhan, Jaya, Vrindavan, Jaya, Jaya, Goswami, Jaya, Mumai, Jaya, Srimad Vasudeva, Jaya, Samveda Bhakta Vrinda, All glories to the assembled world. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Prabhupada. The internet doesn't seem to be on.
Doesn't seem to be on now. But can who's ever got the using the Wi-Fi? Please just turn your phone off.
Well, it's not on at all, according to this. You may have to just make sure the router is plugged in.
I mean, I can see it from here. You're looking at this.
Oh,
it's like one light.
Yeah, somehow it's not on the router. I'm on the router, but it's not on the internet.
Yeah, the lights are on.
The internet's not on. It's just.
No, it's on. It says the lights are on, but yeah, the internet.
The internet's not on. The lights are on, but the internet's not on. You try unplugging it and plugging it back in. Yeah, and then plug it back in. And make sure the cables are connected, especially the phone cable. Anyway, do we have a Bhagavatam?
Where's the podium?
The book, Maharaj?
Book. You know, I haven't memorized the Bhagavatam yet, so you ought to excuse me for being behind in memorization. Okay, so we are reading from the chapter of Purusha Sutta Purusha. Text 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sarvasunam Cha Vayosh Cha Tan Nase Paramayane Ashvinor Uchadinam Cha Grano Buddha Sarvasunam Javayoscha Annase Paramayane Ashvinoshadinam Cha Ronamoda Pramodayaho Sarvasunam Javayoscha Annase Paramayane Ashvinoshadinam Cha Anamoda Pramodayaho Sarvasunam Javayoscha Dhanase Paramayane Ashvinoshadinam Cha Ranamoda Pramodayaho
Sarvasunam Chavayoscha Dhanase Paramayane Ashvinor Osadinam Cha Grano Moda Pramodyaha
Anyone else?
Sarvasunam Chavayascha
Sarvasunam Chavayoscha
Dhanase Paramodane Ashvinor Oshadhinam Cha Riyano Mura Pramodayo Sarvasunam Chavayoscha Dhanase Paramayane Ashvinor Oshadhinam Cha Ranamoda Pramodayo
Okay. Sarva all Asunam different kinds of life air. Cha and Vayoho of the air. Cha also. Tat his. Nase in the nose. Parama ayane in the transcendental generating center. Ashvinoho of the Ashvini Kumara demigods. Oshadinam of all medicinal herbs. Cha also. Ranaha his smelling power. Moda pleasure. Pramodayaho specific sport. So let's read the translation. His two nostrils are the generating centers of our breathing and of all other airs. His smelling powers generate the Ashvini Kumara demigods and all kinds of medicinal herbs, and his breathing energies produce different kinds of fragrance. You can repeat. His two nostrils are the generating centers of our breathing and of all other airs. His smelling powers generate the Ashvini Kumara demigods and all kinds of medicinal herbs. And his breathing energies produce different kinds of fragrance. So there's no purport to this text. And the next two texts just have very short explanatory purports. So we'll just keep reading, I think, until we get to 6th text. Okay. So I'll just keep reading. Rupanam Tejasam Chakshur Divasuryasya Chakshani Karnam Disham Chatirtanam Shrotram Akasha Shabbayo. His eyes are the generating centers of all kinds of forms, and they glitter and illuminate. His eyeballs are like the sun and the heavenly planets. His ears hear from all sides and are receptacles from all the Vedas, for all the Vedas. And his sense of hearing is the generating center of the sky and all kinds of sound. So purport, by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The word Tirthanam is sometimes interpreted to mean the places of pilgrimage, but Srila Jiva Goswami says that it means the reception of Vedic transcendental knowledge. The propounders of Vedic knowledge are also known as Tirthas. Yeah, let me talk about that word a little before we go into the next few texts. So technically in Sanskrit, we're talking about dictionary definition, Tirtha means a crossing place.
A crossing place?
Yeah, like a bridge. You understand? Just like you have certain universities that are named after bridges. Cambridge. Famous university. So, because there's bridges. So, in this particular case, Tirtha means something that enables you to cross from the material world to the spiritual world. And it's like in science fiction. What's that word in science fiction where you have, you can enter one place and end up at the other end of the universe? What?
Portal?
A portal, yeah. That's a door, of course. Portal means door. It's like puerta, which is, basically a Spanish door, or in Latin too, it's the same thing. So, but it's something like that, a crossing, something that enables you to cross from the material world to the spiritual world. And we know that if one travels at the speed of the mind, one can't cross beyond the material world, one can't even get to the end of the material world. That's a description of the Brahma-Sutta Gita. So even the speed of the mind, which is far faster than the speed of light. The speed of light is 186,000 miles a second, approximately, for those of you who don't know. And that's very fast. But still, the scientists, they talk about how a particular planet or a star is many light years away from us. Light years means the years that it would take light to travel that particular distance. And the speed of the mind is actually far quicker than that, because immediately you think of some place, like if I think of Govardhan right now, then I'm there, hopefully. And so, even traveling at that speed, it's instantaneous. It's like science fiction, beam me up or beam me down, Anyway, So, even traveling at that speed, you can't get ahead of the material world. So a tirtha is actually something that enables you, it's a portal to the spiritual world. Really, that's really what's being described here. So sometimes it's understood, the places of pilgrimage, actually Prabhupada said like there's eternal places of pilgrimage, like Vrindavan, Mayapur, Puri, places like that. And there's also places that have become manifest as tirthas by the mercy of the pure devotees, just like here in New Talavana. This is a tirtha also. And it's been manifest by the mercy of His divine grace, Srila Prabhupada. So these tirthas sometimes are manifest, sometimes are not manifest. In other words, I'm not saying that in 5,000, 10,000 years ago, New Talavana will be here. For example, let me give you an example of my own experience. When I was traveling and preaching programs, we would sometimes rent an apartment and use that apartment as a temple. And people would come and they would appreciate the atmosphere of the apartment. And then after we left, the apartment merged back into the Mahatattva. That actually, it's actually, we create, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we're creating a tirtha here. But in order to maintain it as a tirtha, we have to follow the regulative principles and chant our rounds. It's not that just by calling the place New Talavana, or New Loka, or New Vrindavan, or whatever, that it becomes a tirtha, because it depends upon us, which is interesting. I mean, even the deities can come or go. I mean, I'll give you an example. When I was with Prabhupada one time, the devotees had visited a temple. There was a group of brahmacharis, and they were discussing the visit to a particular temple in India. And Prabhupada was asking questions, of course, and they described how this temple didn't receive them nicely and didn't give them prasadam, because I guess they were disciples of Prabhupada or something. They had something against Western-bodied people. And then the devotees began to describe, the brahmacharis began to describe the deities in the temple. And Prabhupada said to them, I was shocked by hearing this, Prabhupada said, there's no deity in that temple. And the devotees said, they tried to correct Prabhupada. And they said, Prabhupada, we saw the deity. And Prabhupada said, you heard what I said. Very heavy. There's no deity. And then he gave that famous Bengali saying, which I don't remember the Bengali for it. It's like using a shalagram shula to crack nuts with. You probably know the Bengali of that. Anyway, so that using it's he's giving that example. So in other words, Krishna comes because we're actually following Krishna consciousness. But if we don't follow Krishna consciousness, then Krishna can go away. Deities can leave. Or the holy name, for example. Prabhupada said it's not simply a movement. Actually, it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur said it. It's not simply a movement of the lips and the tongue. The holy name also descends. Here we're talking about tirtha again. Which Prabhupada quotes in the purport, Srila Jiva Goswami means the reception of Vedic transcendental knowledge, or sound, transcendental sound. I'm paraphrasing it there. So it has to descend, the Lokera Prema Dharma, Harinam Sankirtan. This Harinam Sankirtan descends from the spiritual world. So it actually depends on our purity, how much of the holy name becomes manifest. And I was listening to a very nice story yesterday about Prabhupada from one of our residents here, who should remain nameless. His name is Tejas. Anyway, so he was telling me this wonderful story that there was this first disciple of Prabhupada, who Prabhupada made in India, Pravaka. Some of you may have read about him in the Prabhupada Leelamrita. And Tejas was actually friendly with him, and Prabhupada encouraged them to work together. So Tejas was speaking at some Pandal program. And Prabhupada asked him, so who's going to do the speaking at this program? It wasn't Prabhupada speaking, but Prabhupada was asking him. And Tejas said that this Pravaka was Prabhupada's first disciple, is going to do the introduction, or is going to, just introduce Tejas. And Prabhupada got very upset. And he remember that? Were you there?
I was there.
You were there when he was talking about it. Prabhupada got very upset. He said, basically, there's no potency. And he was Prabhupada's disciple, Prabhupada's first disciple in India. And he was very educated in Sanskrit. It's described by Tejas that Tejas was learning Sanskrit from this particular, and Prabhupada told him to do that. And then Prabhupada turned to Tejas. He said, if you could preach, because you have a little potency. This is really funny. I thought that was quite an interesting statement. You have a little potency. A little Shakti there. Because Tejas was following at that particular point. So in other words, you really have to follow to have spiritual potency. And Prabhupada also, there's that famous recording. Prabhupada said, it must be heard from the lips of a pure devotee, the holy name. And Prabhupada also sometimes considered those who were following strictly to be pure devotees. Prabhupada one time said, all my disciples are pure devotees. I was shocked when he said that. I was shocked. All my disciples. Oh my God. You mean that person who has so many narthas is a pure devotee? But it probably meant that it's just like the little bud on the rose bush, It's a rose, it just hasn't developed yet. Just a little bud. And if it's allowed to develop and cultivate it properly, you keep the pigs from eating it here. And a rose. All the pigs are eating.
The deer were eating
The
those.
deer, the pigs, you got to keep these animals away. So these deer and the pigs, they're like anarthas. There are offenses on chanting. You can actually use the example of Bhakti Lata Bish, that you're trying to grow things for the deities. And then the deer and the pigs, like Kama, Krodha, Madhashat, Madha, Matsarya. I guess the pig would be lust. And what would the deer be? I don't know.
Greed, perhaps?
No, greed, Lord. Greed. Poor deer just wants to eat. Can't find fault with him. So that's what Prabhupada meant by that all his disciples were pure devotees, which is an interesting statement. So in other words, the purity of our worship, or even whether Krishna accepts our offering, is dependent upon the purity of our worship. Radharani, we're offering to Radharani here on the altar, and Radharani's offering to Krishna. Radharani can see that our offering is not up to the snuff, as they say, or standard. And she can reject it. I remember, it wasn't any of the offerings I made, but I remember sometimes you'd find a devotee making an offering, and it wasn't really up to standard, and you'd open the curtains and do arti, you find a plate on the ground. Like Krishna or Radharani just throw it on the ground like that. So when you're dealing with Radha and Krishna, it's really something. Or there's another story, Prabhupada, that one time there was a temple with Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, and the devotees opened up the curtains in the morning, and all that was left was a burnt spot where Subhadra was. And Prabhupada says because of offenses, she's left. So talking about tirthas, because we're not talking about the permanent tirthas, Vrindavan. Vrindavan's always Vrindavan in spite of all the high rises there, the smog, the rickshaws, the pandas. What else do you have in Vrindavan? And what's that? Monkeys. Well, monkeys are actually sannyasis. Prabhupada said there were sannyasis who got married. So, or didn't get married. They had the pips too. So, Vrindavan's always like that, but really it depends on us to maintain the purity here of New Talavana. It's really dependent on us. You can't say, well, it's dependent on Prabhupada started in Talavana. Yes, that's true. But someone could start something and someone can ruin it. So we have to be very careful to keep things, really according to Srila Prabhupada and our own personal sadhana. It's not something you do the deity worship, but you have to have your personal sadhana, waking up early, chanting your rounds nicely, and then this place will manifest more and more as a tirtha, as a crossing place. And that's why Prabhupada says Vaikuntha, the temples are Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha basically means without anxiety. Here we have Kuntha, we're in anxiety, but Vaikuntha means without anxiety. And people will come and then they'll experience it. For example, we were just doing some construction in Nuvaloka. We had all these workers coming. And, not devotees. We're not so fortunate we don't have devotee contractors. Actually, they're very favorable. And I was talking to them, making friends with them. And they're saying, wow, we love the atmosphere here. And then they're starting to take prasadam and back to the Krishna consciousness. And the main contractor, before he starts his work every day, goes and takes darshan of the deities.
Wow.
And he's not a Hindu either. Actually, he's a Punjabi man, but anyway, but still he goes and takes darshan and gets Krishna's blessings. And he just feels, he says, I'm very blissful building this for you. He's building a hall, temple, residential facilities and everything for us. So anyway, that's what a tirtha is. It's a crossing place. So think about it. So you can make a tirtha. And also, another point about tirtha, tirtha buddhi shalale nakaricha janeshu obligashu eva gokara. Actually, so much comes out to my mind about tirthas. It says that in materialist is thinking that the place of his birth is a tirtha.
That's what?
Of his birth. Is a birth. Tirtha. That's why sannyasis really are prohibited from living in the place where they grew up, and were born. Because there's that sentiment. I mean, I'll tell you, even in my own case, I used to do this, but when Google Maps first came out, Google Earth, I would zoom in on the house that I was born in and look at it and remember that's where I had all my pastimes. There's my pastime of what? Isn't it? I mean, you get attached. It's in the mind. It's like conditioned in the mind. So the Bhagavatam says that the materialist is thinking that the place of the tirtha buddhi shalale nakarcha. It also goes to a tirtha just to take a bath. That's another statement of the Bhagavatam. And that person, Saiva Gokura, he's no better than a cow or an ass. Like if you go, even if you go to Govardhan and you just go on like a sightseeing trip or something like that, and say, oh, there's where Krishna is based. It's nice. Cows and asses are also getting the benefit. So, but the point is, the whole purpose of going to a tirtha is to hear from the holy places. Another point is a pure devotee can make a place a tirtha, and a pure devotee can even purify a tirtha. Isn't it? Just like we have the example of the Ganges. When Bhagirath was trying to get the Ganges to come down to the earth planet, Ganges had two objections. One objection was that she's so powerful she'd split the earth in two. And that objection was countered by Bhagirath, who said, we'll get Lord Shiva to catch him. And he did. And the other objection was that, when I come down to the earth planet, I'm actually, the Ganges is like the foot-bathing water of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when Lord Vamana kicked a hole this, the celestial guy. The Ganges came down. It goes through the higher planets first. Anyway, so the Ganges protested that all these rascals are going to take a bath in me. Try to get rid of their karma. And you see that. People just go to the Ganges all over and take that. I mean, it's good. I'm not saying it's not good. It's good. But they're just going and taking a bath and thinking, now I'm free from karma. I can go back and do my nonsense again. It's like the Christians with their confession. They go to the Ganges for the same purpose, isn't it? Or nowadays they even go on honeymoons. Like even you go to Jagannath Puri or even Rishikesh, and you'll see people going there just for mundane reasons, just for a honeymoon or a romantic vacation. Sometimes they're not even married. And you go around Govardhan, young boys and unmarried girls, they're holding hands around Govardhan playing Bollywood songs. So it's gotten even worse. I mean, or people are smoking. They're circumambulating Govardhan, and they're smoking cigarettes. I remember one time I was going around Govardhan, and I commented to the person with me, this watching people smoke cigarettes, and the person overheard me. The person who's smoking actually overheard me. And he basically said in Hindi, which I understand, he said, what do these malechas know? Well, Angrezis, What do these white people know? Vedic culture smoking. You never hear about Lord Ram smoking. Krishna doesn't pull out a cigarette or what about vaping, So anyway, so people go to the holy place. So getting back to the point of the Ganges, the Ganges said, I can't come down to the earth plane. These people will bathe in me. And then the Bhagi Ra countered with the statement that yes, that these rascals will bathe in you, but so will the pure devotees. And the pure devotees will purify you, will take away that karma. That's interesting, isn't it? How the pure devotees, so in other words, this is in line with what Prabhupada says here. Jiva Goswami means the reception of Vedic transcendental knowledge. By sound vibration, the pure devotee makes a place a holy place. Which is really, it's really nice. So when we go to a holy place, the whole point is to hear Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. All the 9 processes are dependent upon Shravanam. You can't have any of the other 9 processes without Shravanam. How are you going to know how to Sevanam or Archanam or anything unless you've done Shravanam? What to speak about Mani Vedanam? Surrendering everything, becoming a friend of the Lord, any of the other processes of devotional service. So that's why Tirtha actually means reception of Vedic transcendental knowledge. I'm unpacking what Prabhupada said here. And also, the propounders of Vedic knowledge are known as Tirthas, which is interesting. In certain traditions in India, they're also called Tirthankaras. I don't know if you've heard that word before. Tirthankara. Even the Buddhists have Tirthankaras. It's interesting. This word is actually a very important word to understand the purpose of the word and how to apply the word and how to make a tirtha. So, should we go on? Unless you have any questions about this whole discussion on tirtha. I didn't plan on talking so much about tirtha. It was so neat.
I just have a comment.
Yeah.
That, years ago we went with Jagataka Maharaj on safari. We went to the Bangalore temple.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of in the beginnings of the whole fiasco, the Ritwik fiasco there.
Yeah.
And so many of the devotees commented, not that we have some kind of special vision like Prabhupada, but it felt like the deities weren't even there.
Yeah, I'm not qualified to say whether they're there or not, but it's not connected to Prabhupada in the same way that ISKCON is. And actually, I have one disciple who used to be, let's say, a so-called Ritvik disciple of Madhu Pandit, or Prabhupada. And he was telling me how they run the place. They run it like they really just like try to keep blinders on everybody. And it's almost like a cult. You know, they run it like a cult. And Madhu Pandit keeps them from contacting or understanding any other sort of process for becoming Krishna conscious. And he continually drills into their minds this whole thing. And Madhu Pandit acts more like a guru than the gurus in ISKCON. You understand what I mean? More like a guru in the sense of tightly controlling everyone's life. And I don't know any of the other gurus in ISKCON that nowadays tightly control, micromanage everybody in the temple. So in other words, Madhu Pandit is the de facto guru. De facto means functional, what's actually happening. Maybe not de juris, maybe not in name, he's guru. But practically speaking, he has more obedience from the people in the temple there than ISKCON gurus have obedience from their disciples. And this devotee, he realized that and he escaped. He not only was in Madhu Pandit's temple, but he also was sent to Malaysia to help with the Ritvik temple there. And he escaped from there, and he approached me, and I talked to him and everything. He took initiation. And now he's part of ISKCON. So, I mean, sincere people will actually escape after some time. It just, you realize what's going on. Your life is being controlled 24/7, and you're not allowed to think for yourself. That's really what's happening. Because if you're allowed to think for yourself, you'll see the practicality of having a guru. Someone who could advise you in Krishna consciousness and, initiate you. And of course, Prabhupada is giving us the Siddhanta and the aspects of Krishna consciousness that are principles. But the guru can sometimes give you details on how to apply those principles. And sometimes the guru does give you details on how to apply those principles. There's principles that cannot be changed, like 16 rounds. Like if you have a guru who says, well, I don't think you should chant 16 rounds anymore. I think 1 round is good. Then that guru is deviating from the principles that Prabhupada taught. But if the guru says, I think for preaching it might be better to dress like this or that, then that's not deviating from Prabhupada's principles. I mean, Prabhupada allowed the devotees to even wear wigs on Sankirtan in the old days to distribute books. In the beginning, Prabhupada tried to stop it. But when Prabhupada was informed by Ramaswar that the book distribution would drop dramatically, and the devotees weren't dressing like hippies, then Prabhupada said, okay, it's okay, they can do it. So Prabhupada also was very much interested in the practical results. And there were wonderful results because of the book distribution in those days. Temples got built, the movement spread, and utility is the principle. So those are, that's also what Prabhupada talked about. Utility is the principle, books are the basis, preaching is the essence, purity is the force. So what's interesting, the spirit guru, both Diksha Guru, has to understand the actual principles that Prabhupada taught that you cannot change. Like going on the altar, for example, you should wear a dhoti. We don't want anyone with pants or, you gotta be careful what I say, with certain hair in certain places of their body. Because Prabhupada didn't want that. There's certain principles. Go on the altar, there's a way to do it. And you don't offer meat, fish, eggs, garlic, or onions on the altar either. So anyway, But there are adjustable things that, and the gurus can help us, or our Shiksha gurus, or temple presidents who are naturally, should be Shiksha gurus, can help us understand certain adjustments. You know, Prabhupada never said to use a mobile phone. You know, I'm using a mobile phone. Prabhupada never said to have a donation kiosk there. I don't remember Prabhupada ever saying that. See, that's offline too, you can see. The internet's not on because the kiosk isn't online. I'm actually recording this class for later on uploading it. The internet's not working. So Prabhupada
It came now, Maharaj.
What?
It came now if you want to use
It just came, well, it's too late now. Too late for me. Anyway, I'm recording it, I'll upload it later. So, but Prabhupada never said a lot of things, but we do these things because they're practical, but we need senior devotees to guide us in these things. And therefore we need gurus, it's not just Srila Prabhupada, but we need the guru to guide us in connecting to Prabhupada. All right, so anyway, enough about the Ritvik. So,
Maharaj,
yeah.
Tamal Krishna, his name is Kirtanka. Didn't it, Tamal?
Yes.
That's his legal name, is Kirtanka. Like you,
Tirthankara.
yeah, what you were saying, wasn't you using that word?
Tirthankara.
Yeah, Kirtanka.
Really?
That's his legal name,
Yes.
first name.
Tamal Krishna.
Really?
Yeah,
Where do you get that name?
from his mama.
My grandfather.
Like our
He
Talavana
said his
Tamal
grandfather.
Krishna.
So he's talking about.
Grandfather also Prabhupada got brother disciple.
Really? Tirthankara. That's nice. I mean, someone who is a tirtha, basically. Someone who can help you cross beyond this material world. That's nice. That's why when we serve Prabhupada and please Prabhupada, we go back to Godhead. That's all we got to do. I mean, Krishna consciousness is very simple. You don't have to really figure out what your Siddha Deya is. You just simply have to please Prabhupada. To me, that's Yasha Prasada, Bhagavad Prasada. I mean, every day we're chanting this. If you simply please Prabhupada, then Bhagavad Prasada. Then you get Prasada. No, you get mercy. You get Bhagavad Prasada. And what does that mean? Bhakti Lata Bij. Get Prabhupada's blessing. And you know, look at the example of Jayananda Prabhu. Jayananda was not really expert in Shastra. If you listen to his classes, they're all basically the same. You got to chant the holy name, you got to have faith in Prabhupada, they're all basically the same, Jayananda. And even there's that story that one time Tamal Krishna Maharaj said to Jayananda, it's time to chant Gayatri. And Jayananda got out his Brahman thread wrapped around his finger. And 1 minute later he offered his obeisances. And Prabhupada asked him, he said, I'm not Prabhupada, but Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked him, what are you doing? How can you chant your Gayatri mantra so quickly? And then Jayananda related that when Prabhupada tried to teach him the Gayatri mantra, he just couldn't learn. And Prabhupada said, that's all right, just think of me. So, but he was a real Brahmin. That's all right, just think of me. And Prabhupada indicated that he went back to Godhead. And Prabhupada, he was so close to Prabhupada, so dear to Prabhupada. And, you know, he's responsible for our Rath Yatras. And so, you know, so here's someone who was basically, I mean, he was educated. He wasn't a stupid person.
He had an engineering degree.
He had an engineering degree. But somehow, you know, sometimes people with certain types of brains can't do other things. Albert Einstein couldn't remember his phone number. Because he was asked about it, he says, why should I bother my brain with it? But you know, you got people, I mean, sometimes there's people, this isn't Jayananda, but people, there's something called idiot salad, people have perfect memories. But they can't process things too well. So everybody has a different type of intelligence. Some people are good at languages, other people just can't hack it. Some people are good at science, they can understand things immediately. And other people can't, so everybody has a different type of intelligence. But Jayananda basically didn't have the type of faculty where he could learn the Gayatri mantra. It's interesting. But Prabhupada said, just remember me. And if you hear his classes, there's the purest thing you've ever heard in your life about the holy name. Just have faith in Prabhupada, just have faith in the holy name. That's it. And, you know, he's talking, but they're all basically the same classes from Japanese. The pure devotee, Krishna. So really, you know, the purity is dedication to the order of the spiritual master. Like we mentioned yesterday, how Prabhupada's purity, what the proof of Prabhupada's purity was not the symptoms of ecstasy, which Prabhupada occasionally showed, but that's really not essential. The proof of his purity is his dedication to the order of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. More than anybody else was dedicated to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's order. Throughout Prabhupada's whole life, he was planning on how to fulfill that order. Even in his business, the whole purpose of Prabhupada's business was not to keep his wife satisfied. Prabhupada was not interested in that, I tell you that. The whole purpose of his business was to raise enough money to publish books and to start the Western mission. But Krishna didn't want that strategy. The strategy didn't work, but Prabhupada's purpose was completely eke ha kulananda, focused on the purpose. I mean, why else would Prabhupada want to make money? Isn't it? And that proves Prabhupada's exalted superlative position in Krishna consciousness. Just that one point. To me, that's the essence. You know, Samitpani Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. Samitpani means, as I mentioned yesterday, putting straw in your teeth. Considering yourself, which in essence means considering yourself a servant of spiritual master. If one thinks he's a guru, he's not a guru. If one thinks he's a servant of the Lord, or servant of the spiritual master, that's actually our identity. That's why we probably gave the name Das to everybody, or Dasi. You know, because we're servants. That's all. We're ready for anything. I mean, in Spanish there's an actually interesting word, it's called para todos. It means one can do anything. If you say, in certain countries, if you say someone's a para todos, that means that they're a Shudra. Because that means you can ask them to do anything, like clean the toilet. What? One time we had this happened to me many times, we had a devotee from South America come, and I said, can you clean this? There was a lady. She said, what do you think I am? A para todos. And there was a man also too. And I have somebody's story about this. A man, I said, can you do some construction? So what do you think I am? A Shudra? And I finally convinced him to do construction. I had him shoveling concrete on the second floor. And this is a funny story. And I was actually operating what's called a front end loader and taking the concrete up to the second floor. So just to teach him a lesson, I gave him a little abhishek with the concrete. Not over the head, but over his feet or something. And he was working like that. So we have to understand, you know, we're just servants. You know, Krishna says, clean the toilets. Clean the toilets. What's the problem? I mean, I just heard something Yogendra did yesterday. I almost had a shock. We were walking by these porta potties, you know, these portable toilets outside, and I said, who cleans them? He said, I do. I said, what? You don't call anyone to pump them out? He said, no, I just take a wet vac. You know what a wet vac is? And I attach it to it, and I suck out what's inside. Not with a wet vac. I said, oh my God.
Yeah, Joy's doing that too.
They say that, you know, because they don't want to do it.
But he's showing he's the most advanced by doing that.
Right.
Because he's ready to do, you know, he's a temple president, big type of president, and he's ready to do anything. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you couldn't pay me enough money to do that.
I have a hard time finding people to do that.
I mean, I would just hire someone. It was me. I'd go out there and distribute some books and make some money. So, Yoginder is so humble. Kachanadapi Sunicheno. Torari Vasishnana. So actually, isn't it? That's a good quality. When I heard that, I was just extremely shocked. And, admiring his dedication to New Talavana. I mean, that's the sort of dedication to New Talavana the people here should have. Then we'll be very successful. If everyone had that dedication to the project. Anyway, that's my advertisement for today. So,
When do I write you a check? I got one.
and Maharani too, I mean, she's really, we won't talk about her. But, just these dedication, the devotees year after year willing to roll up their sleeves and not thinking, I'm a Brahmin and I just do the puja, like that. Anything for Krishna. And I think that's nice. I mean, of course, the first day I joined the movement, I was told to clean the toilets. And I almost fluked. But I did it, and I enjoyed it.
Would you think I am a parrotologist?
Yeah. Well, I had different words for that. At that time, I didn't speak Spanish. But so what do you think I am? I came from a very wealthy family. I never even cleaned my clothes. I said, I thought, that's what mothers are for, cleaning clothes. When I was young, all I did with my clothes, I just threw them on the floor and they came back magically clean. And my mother kept saying, use the hamper. You know what a hamper is?
Yeah.
And I never did. And so they all, what?
It worked anyway.
It worked anyway. I thought, that's life, Mothers are for that, fathers are for giving me money. And I joined the movement, and then basically, when we first started the temple in North Carolina, I had to get food from the dumpsters. We didn't have any money. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't have been there. And we didn't. It was muddy during the winter, and we didn't have enough money for boots, so we just had to put plastic bags around our shoes. It wasn't so bad. I mean, it was kind of interesting.
Old days horror stories.
Yeah, but it was not a horror. It was actually pleasant. When you do these things for Krishna, you actually feel happy. You're actually happy. So that's the whole point. It's not like I'm sure when Yogi sucks out the whatever from the potties, he feels an ecstasy. Not from the activity itself, but from the point is he's serving Krishna in a way that nobody else wants to serve Krishna. That's interesting, isn't it? Just like Prabhupada did something. I mean, one of his godbrothers said, they criticized Prabhupada, they said Prabhupada likes to associate with blechers, which wasn't true. But the point is, that was an indirect glorification of Prabhupada. Prabhupada was ready to do that austerity of associating with us. I tell you, compared to Prabhupada's position and our position, it's like if you, right now, you go to where those pigs are, the wild pigs, and you hang out with them. Who would do that? Right. Well, she's dedicated. Anyway, so I mean, if you say to someone, you go to these wild boars and pigs, really probably kind of dirty.
Full of germs.
And they smell pretty bad too, I guess. And you just hang out. So that's the comparison between, let's say, Prabhupada's high-class culture. We're not talking about spiritual things, but the high-class Bengali culture and the Bowery. Prabhupada had to step over, not step over, people moved aside. But practically he had to ask the bums in front of his door to step aside. They were drunk. Prabhupada had to live with someone who was taking LSD and went out, crazy. And Prabhupada, every once in a while he would go by the India Steamship Company office to find out when the next boat was leaving for India. And the person who worked there said, Swamiji, you're coming all the time and asking, when are you going? And Prabhupada wasn't going. But Prabhupada just it was tough. It was tough. So, so Prabhupada just asked him, when's the next boat going? And sort of cooled his mind down a little bit. All right, I'm ready to duke it out with the militias again. And Prabhupada waiting online for the bathroom when everybody else was cooking for all these people, taking, who were taking drugs basically. So Prabhupada basically was dealing with the low class people. I mean, that's militias, people in the West. And because but his godbrothers, they couldn't do that. They couldn't do that. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's mood was exactly like that. There's even some description that when he invited some people to Mayapur, some Britishers, he had arranged for them to have meat. And even there were workers working on a temple, and he rolled their biddies for them, the cigarettes. Of course, he never did any of those sinful things his whole life. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was a ray of Vishnu. And then he was asked by his disciples, how can you do this? And he said, I've been waiting for many, many births to do this. Not to do that particular activity, but to spread this Krishna consciousness movement. So you see in the cases of these great personalities, they were ready to roll up their sleeves and deal with something that was, for them, pretty disgusting to serve Krishna. So that, so you see these examples. So that's the quality of a pure devotee. Okay. Any other questions? Whoops. You cut me out? Okay. Yes, Mama.
I was going to say something about the theater stuff you talked about. A family who's just bought Lilavata's house.
Yeah.
They know you too. The Prabhu's name is Jaya Goswami or something.
Oh, Jaya Goswami from Murfreesboro?
From Prabhupada village. I don't know where that is.
No, Jaya Goswami. The Jaya Goswami, right? Jaya Goswami?
Not the psychiatrist.
Oh.
He drives a truck right now. But
From Prabhupada village. Yeah, they know
they
me.
say they know you. And this is a true story. We know that they bought the house, but then we never saw them. And we were so busy, we don't know where they are. They suddenly appeared in my restaurant 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't recognize them, and then they introduced, then I remembered. And then they were there for hours to make the long story short. I asked them, why did you all pick New Talavana? And they were looking for a place, different places. And that's when that Prabhu said, there is something special about this place. We visited a lot of places. They said, Alacho is too busy. The place they're coming from, they're quarreling. They said, the devotees here are really nice. They said they're very friendly, and they picked this place. So we cannot see, sometimes when we are here, what the environment and place is, and sometimes we don't even take advantage. But other people who visit, they can see that this is a nice place.
It is. It is. I mean, it's a wonderful place.
Same thing with Jankaraj, the Prabhu who just visited, a really nice man, and donated a lot of Lakshmi in his visit. He also said the same thing.
You need to do more publicity on the internet for New Talavana. Videos. You need to do something to attract more people.
The thing is, we don't have place for people to stay.
No. People will get their own places in the area. I think that the whole concept of just sticking everybody on the land may be something that you have to revisit. Because if you really attract people, that's what we've done in North Carolina. We have people own properties within the area or half hour away or whatever it is. We got a community, and we don't have to pay for their electricity or anything like that. They're supporting the community. Really, that's the point. Just like the devotee just mentioned, he'll be a supporting member. You won't have to, you don't have to worry about his house or fixing it up, or if the electricity goes off, or the septic tank, or the well, or whatever. I think in addition, it's not that we just fit everybody in on this property, otherwise you're gonna be managing people's lives you shouldn't be managing. So, just like a lot of you here have your own places outside. It's not that everybody here is living on temple property, right?
Right.
In here, see. So, that's the sort of propaganda. Like that. And, because it's a good area to live in. People can afford it. It's an affordable area, isn't it? And if you look anywhere else, and people could buy an acre of land for how much here?
It would vary from 6,500 up,
That's not bad.
depending on the acre.
Yeah, where we are, an acre of land may be $50,000 to $70,000.
Wow.
And we're in the rural area. So,
This devotee that Maharaj was talking about was also so humble that rather than bother anybody because they couldn't move in immediately, they went and rented someplace. None of us even knew. They rented a place in Diamond Head to stay for a month until they could move into their house. Never even contacted me. I didn't even know they were there.
Yeah, I told them that.
anyway, they're nice people, so. And
And they want to contribute to the community. They don't want to be like, stay somewhere and not come. They want to come, but they want to be independent and do their thing, like you said.
so that's what you need, people who contribute. Some people will be here serving the deities, and the majority of people will be outside contributing. And then you'll make a nice community. Otherwise, you got to run everybody's life. I don't think you want to do that. And pump everybody's septic tank. We'll just have to get you a big truck, you'll give it, with one of those tanks on it.
They're called honey wagons.
So we'll take up we'll do something on the internet, to buy him a honey wagon. Okay, on that happy note, I think we should end class now. All glories to the divine age, the What's that?